What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Twisted Life of TV. I am Poetry. You are here because I just watched Posse last night over on Discord in the Life for TV Lounge. I have been inviting y'all to come out and join me, but I flew through this whole movie solo dolo. And this is not what Posse is supposed to be about. It's supposed to be a game, okay? I've been trying to get y'all to posse up with me, but where y'all at? Where y'all at? Okay? Anyway, it's free, child. It's free. Come on through. Y'all missed a whole good-ass black western movie directed by Mario Van Peebles. And he actually starred in this movie as well, which he normally does. If you watch any Mario Van Peebles projects, baby, he in the movie. He gonna get paid as the director and as the actor, okay? And the writer, because he even wrote this movie. Okay, so he actually is playing a character named Jessie Lee, who was sentenced to go to war to escape being put to death. It was either hang or go to war. He chose war. So he's now over in Cuba in the Spanish-American War and basically fighting for his life over there. He posse up with a few of his other fellow soldiers, and now they running for their doggone lives, right? So I'm still on my road to 5K on this channel, so I want you to go ahead and hit subscribe if you like talking about anything. This is a variety channel. We talk about movies, we talk about TV shows, we talk about politics, we talk about trending topics, we talk about me, okay? All that goes on this channel, because like I said, it's a variety channel. But if you turn on your notifications, you get notified of what videos popped up to see if that's the one that's right for you to watch. As of right now, we're gonna go get into some Posse, okay? Now, this is basically about a group of men serving together in Cuba, okay? I think the year was 1865. It's during the Spanish-American War, like I stated. And we have the characters Jessie Lee, who is being played by Mario Van Peebles. Also, Little J, who's being played by Stephen Baldwin. Then we have Obobo, who is being played by Tom Lister, who at this time, who we know as Tiny Lister. He was called Tom Lister by his real name at this particular time when this came out. And then there's Angel, who is being played by the rapper Tone Loc. Okay, so they was basically forced to go out on a suicide mission. Had to sneak into the enemy territory. And they came across a fortune while they were in the process of doing this. So when Jessie realized this money was hers, like, oh my goodness, we being set up, he realized they was in danger. They had to figure out how to escape. But as they were running off with the money, they were met by their commanding officer. His name was Colonel Graham. He was played by Billy Zane. I love him as an actor. Crazy as a bitsy bug. Just everything is right about him in this particular role. Okay, so Graham, he had no intention of letting them leave Cuba with his doggone money because he thought it was his, okay? So he said he was going to take them out. Ain't no way they could live. Luckily, there was another soldier who pretty much was Graham's flunky. His name was Wheezy, played by I don't know how his name, Clarence Lane. He hasn't did many other projects. I think he maybe did like 3 other movies that he's acted in, but he's directed and produced a couple. Okay, so when he realized what was about to go down between Colonel Graham and these soldiers, he intervened, okay? And when he intervened, it caused a all knockdown, drag out fight, child. Colonel Graham ended up losing a doggone eye in the whole process of this. And he was pissed at the audacity that these black men, these soldiers, I think they was Buffalo soldiers, even fucking existed, and that they had the nerve to take the gold that they found, the fortune that they found. So his sole purpose in life became to hunt them down like the rabid dogs that he thought they were. He was going to enact his revenge on them and get that gold. That was his whole goal, right? Well, the posse, which was named by Wheezy, he was like, we're a posse, we got to stick together, you know what I'm saying? Because they was about to take him out. Because like I said, he was Graham's flunky, but he ended up helping them, and he also helped them get off of Cuba, get out of Cuba altogether. They ended up in New Orleans with a pocket full of gold, and this is where they met Father Time. He another person that was added to the crew, added to the posse. Father Time was played by Big Daddy Kane, old sexy chocolate self. That man's still fine. Still fine, okay? So, Jessie, he left them in New Orleans doing what they had to do, cutting up, acting the fool, because they thought there was going to be a safe space for them to hide out, because that's what Weezy was able to take them to. And Weezy knew the area already. They was calling him by name. But they also thought that Weezy was the one in charge of them. They let people believe it, though. So anyway, Jessie decided to go off on his own. He was heading out west. I think he said he was heading to Los Angeles. He had some unfinished business that he had to take care of. Okay, so somehow the Colonel was able to track them all the way to New Orleans. Well, when they escaped Cuba, they left in coffins, that should have been filled with dead bodies. So the captain must have knew where the ship normally goes, because again, everybody knows Weezy's name in New Orleans. So he tracked them to New Orleans. When he got there, again, all hell breaks out. Okay, another gunfight. There was gunfights after gunfights in this movie, and it was so good. Okay, Father Time, he was rocking with Lil J because they was both gamblers, so they was hanging together, right? Tiny was up in the room with Lister and Angel because they was down in the lounge trying to party and have a good time. Now they up in the room being silly and ridiculous. And so when the Colonel busted in, he busted in on Tiny and them. And Lil J and them happened to walk in on the situation, but again, it caused a whole big drag out gunfight in the middle of New Orleans. And because Father Time was with them, that's how he ended up with the gang. He had to run for his life too. Okay, so Angel, I was so sad about the fact that he ended up losing his life in this fight here. His character was loud, his character was out there, but brother was quick on the draw. It was unfortunate that it was more of the Colonel's men than it was of them. And he got overwhelmed by so much of the firepower trying to save Weezy's little life. Well, the Colonel, he spread the word around town that these men were outlaws. This whole posse of men was outlaws. And he put a $500 hit on each of their heads, right? So eventually, the men said they need to go find Jessie. And they took off heading west to go find Jessie, and they was able to creep up on him, let him know what was going down. Like, look, the man is looking for us, we in trouble. Now again, Father Time wasn't with them initially, so Jessie had to test him a little bit to see if he was really gonna stay true. He had him create a little chaos in town and spread the word that this was Father Time's gang and outlaw band of outlaws and stuff like that. And it was just so he could be a wanted man as well. He had something to lose just like they had to lose. But they were still heading out the west. Jessie had a mission, had a plan, and he was leaving a trail of bodies along the way, y'all. Once they got out of this little town, they exchanged the gold or melted down the gold into some bullions and stuff like that, and got a little cash on it too as well, so they could spend it more easily. They made their way over to this other little town, but in the pathway they rode up on a little am I messing that part up? He went through that town, left all those trail of bodies because Jessie had an agenda of his own. He was getting payback on somebody who killed his daddy. And the trail of where these men lived is all the little towns and places that he was stopping through, right? So as they going on, they got another place to head to. They find this stagecoach in the middle of the desert land, probably on the Trail of Tears somewhere, child. And everybody was dead in this stagecoach, except when they pulled back this jacket, there was a little boy that had survived. He was hungry and thirsty and all that stuff, so they decided to take the little boy with them, and they found some papers on the dead bodies with this town called Freedomville. Well, apparently Freedomville was the town or the establishment that Jessie's daddy had been trying to set up. So he had to go there. He had to go to Freedom Town or Freedomville to see what was going on with his father's legacy, right? So we get to learn a lot about what happened to his daddy and how his daddy died and how he ended up, about to be hung but sent off to war, through flashbacks that Jessie was having. Jessie was actually dealing with a little bit of PTSD, not only from the military, but from what happened to his father, because he was there and he was present. Okay, so the posse said we're going to head on to Farmville. Now, the thing is, none of the posse know what's going on. Jessie is not a talkative man. He doesn't really engage much. He doesn't even show a lot of emotion. But they just know that he is somebody that is about business. So they are blindly following him. Whatever he need them to do, they going to do. Okay, because they know that Jessie is going to be able to keep them alive. Now, when they was in the military, he was the one that was in charge of the little battalion, because they was the Buffalo Soldiers were black. The only reason why Lil Jon is our only white posse member, ended up with the posse is because he was pretty friendly with the black people. Okay, so the white commanders, Colonel Graham, thought it was funny to put him in charge. He was kind of like a the wasn't all the way together either. So he thought it was funny to put the in charge and strip Jessie of his rank and his title or his position. But they all knew that when the shit hit the fan, Jessie was the one that had the plan on how to go down, right? And since they got the colonel hot on their ass, their best thought was to stick together. So, we learn about what happened to Jessie's father through his flashbacks, and basically he was killed by the Klan because he was trying to start a town and promote education as the tool of freedom for black people, right? So he gets to the town, he runs into Lana, who's played by Shally Richardson. Lana was Jessie's former girlfriend, who is now dating his former best friend, Carver, played by Blair Underwood. Okay. Lana's father happens to be Melvin Van Peebles. Hey, I don't care what movie it is, except for New Jack City. Mario Van Peebles makes sure his daddy is working, and he put his daddy in that movie as well. He wasn't part of New Jack City as far as acting in it, but Melvin still played a role in producing and directing in New Jack City. So anytime you look and you see Marvin, you're going to see his daddy fine ass. His daddy's a fine older man. His daddy's a fine older man. Melvin's a fine dude. Marvin's a fine dude. Mario, they fine. They just all fine shit. So when we get there, we learn that the sheriff of the next town is the one who is responsible for killing or leading the raid to kill Jessie's daddy. And he is currently terrorizing Freedomville. Now, Carver is the sheriff of Freedomville. He's the one running the town. I don't believe they had a mayor at all, but he's the one running the town. And for some reason, he was allowing them to come in there and treat them like shit. These are free men. And you still getting bossed around and beat upside your head by this doggone sheriff. Well, we learned that Carver was in cahoots with that sheriff child. He was taking land from the citizens of Freedomville in order to make it rich. They were about to run a railroad track through town. Now, that's how they do a lot of black communities. They did a lot of black communities over time. They strip out our homes and our spaces in order to build something on top of it and destroy what we have made. They did it in St. Louis, where the Gateway Arch is located. That used to be a black neighborhood. Is it Cabrini Green in Chicago? No, it's not Cabrini Green. What is it? What's that park in New York? Damn, I can't see the park. I don't know much. Famous park in New York. What is it? Y'all know it. Central Park. Central Park was built on Black Town. Is it Lake? The lake down in Atlanta. Built on the Black Town. It's Lake Lanier. Lake Lanier. It used to be a black town. You know, they flooded the whole town to get rid of it. We already know that the Tulsa Massacre happened. And in many cities nationwide, black people had wealth. They had their own land. They had their own banks. They had their own stores. Things of that nature. And every single time the white folks came on in and destroyed our shit. And then they keep asking today, I don't know why y'all just can't get a hand up. Why y'all just can't do it on your own? Why you always blaming the white man for, why you can't rise? Because every time we try, y'all motherfuckers burn it down. Flood it out. Build a road through it. Every fucking time. Okay? So, this is basically what's going on in this movie as well. When the sheriff learned that Jessie was back in town, he made it his business to try to finish what he started years ago. Okay. Now the posse has to contend with Colonel Graham, who was hot on their ass. He was going over to that sheriff's town. I think it was Cutterstown. He was going over to that town to, make his way to Freedomville next. And the colonel found his way into that neighboring neighborhood. And now the posse, like I said, got to deal with him. And they got to deal with the sheriff of that town. Jesse's past was creeping up on him fast. The film rounds out with a major shootout again, baby. Guns blazing, dynamite flying, bodies dropping left and right. It was just a whole film montage of excitement. And we lost some good ones during the fight. We lost some good ones. But in the end, Jessie showed out, and showed us how the West was really fucking won, right? And come to find out that the little boy that they find, this little boy didn't talk at all to the whole doggone movie. The little boy that they find, he lived to the very end, and he was telling the tale. So this movie opened up with him sitting there talking about the history of black cowboys and how the different white people had destroyed a lot of our settlements. And he ended because talking about it as well. He had been telling the whole story to some reporters at the end, so it kind of rounded out everything. I didn't give y'all a full breakdown on what all happened, a full recap, because y'all should have been there. Every Tuesday at 7:30 p.m. I do another Western movie for the month of November. The actors and actresses. Okay, so Billy Zane, like I said, I thought he was fucking phenomenal in his role. He was the perfect villain. And I love the fact that he pulled no punches. He played no games. He was just going to kill your ass and kill you quick. Wait, you know what? He did start off playing games. And that's probably how he got fucked up in the first place. But his whole game was to get Jessie them to go on that suicide mission. But other than that, when it came down to the whooping ass, he wasn't playing no games there. He wasn't playing no games there. So Billy Zane did an awesome fucking role. Mario Van Peebles. I realized I really do like almost every movie I've seen him in. I don't think there's one movie I have seen him in that I didn't like. He's a damn good actor as well. But this character had no emotion. No, he wasn't never happy. He wasn't never sad. Even when he saw the love of his life, Lana, again, he didn't melt just a little. So that's the only thing I didn't like about his character, is that he lacked all emotion. Even when he had his flashbacks about his father, you didn't even see him get angry. You didn't see him get sad. He just was. He just existed in his emotion, and it didn't move. It was like he was emotionally paraplegic. Blair Underwood. I forgot this was a role that I hated him in. You know how in Diary of a Mad Black Woman, that's Charles. It was still Medea. I can't remember which Medea movie it was, but it was the one he was marrying Medea's niece or something like that, and he was abusing her. I hated him in that role, and that's how I felt about him in this one, because he was a sellout to the people. He didn't give a fuck who he harmed. He didn't care about the next brother, the next sister, the ones who helped build that town together, as long as he got rich off of their blood, sweat, and tears. So I hated him in this movie. When he met his demise, I felt nothing. I was like Jessie Lee, just sitting there. That's it. You know what I'm saying? I didn't feel nothing. Oh, so one thing I liked about the movie, I liked that Mario Van Peebles, as a black director, and many black directors that have followed him, always finds a way to include black history into their films. I love that aspect. He talked about the grandfather clause in this movie, and back in that time, they made sure that black people couldn't vote. The grandfather clause was, if your grandfather could not vote, that means that you don't have the right to vote right now. So that means it was like 3 generations of people who couldn't vote. So let's say, for example, so if my granddaddy could vote, that means I can't vote. I'm not a good example. If I was a man, I think that it was universal. I think it was. So I'm gonna use my brother instead as a better example. So my granddaddy can't vote means my brother can't vote, right? If my brother has a child, that child can't vote because his daddy can't vote. Why? Because the granddaddy's father most likely could not vote either. Okay? And that means if he has a grandchild, that grandchild couldn't vote either because he was restricted from voting because his grandfather couldn't vote, which means that black men under the grandfather clause could never fucking vote. And they talked about this in the movie, and I don't know why it has not registered to me until this movie happened. I haven't thought about the grandfather clause. Usually when we talk about voting rights, I think about, when they had the soap test and stuff like that they're trying to do now. But the grandfather clause is like totally escaped me. So I love finding out or relearning facts I had learned before. I watched this movie back in 1993 when it came out in the theaters. It's been over 30 years since I've seen this movie. And I love that I'm watching it like with fresh eyes all over again. One other thing that I learned in this movie is that what we already know as black people, that they teach hate. They were teaching their children hate. They had their daughters out at the hangings watching people hang, gave them little dowels or ropes around their neck like it was a fucking toy. And they used religion to oppress people. Now, I know I've heard a lot of talk about how the Bible appeared in Africa long before the King James Version. So Christianity was already there, but white people took Christianity and twisted it to oppress people. And I don't understand why so many black people of today still accept that version of the Bible, the King James Version. Because that's all it talks about, is oppressing other people, taking from other people, ruling over other people. And I personally don't believe that my God, the one that created me, Big G, I don't believe that's the same God in the King James Version. But anywho, it showed that they taught hate. It showed that they justified killing people using religion. He was saying something that along the lines that the good book teaches us that for those of us who we think are savages, we have the right to kill them. That was almost a exact quote, but I'm paraphrasing. So I I learned again that for years and years and years, they have always taken things from other people without cause, just simply based off of them not being white. Like even Coming to America, which the movie opens up with this too. They have been so oppressive and have lied so much to us as a people, to the red man, which is the indigenous people, the yellow man, the Asian people, the brown, the Latino people. They have been lied to so much that people actually believe that Columbus found America, that discovered America. Columbus never even made it to America. He made it to the Bahamas. He didn't even come to America. Why are we celebrating Christopher Columbus discovering America? He didn't, first of all, couldn't discover nothing. There was people already here. So he didn't discover shit. But he never even made it to America to discover it. You know what I'm saying? But they got us believing that he did. They celebrating this man as if he did that shit. Columbus was lost like a motherfucker. We celebrating the loser. He didn't even know, couldn't even find his head from his ass. That's pretty much what they're saying. So, one of the things that we learned, how they would force you to build for them while burning down yours. So like they had they cleared out indigenous lands in this movie to build that railroad station. They were about to bring that railroad tracks through the black settlements as well. And the people who were building the railroads were the natives and the Asians who were being forced to do so. They've already been stripped of their own land. The railroad was being brought through their land, and they're forcing them to build that railroad through their own land. Okay. They scare you into thinking that you have no power and you're undeserving of it anyway, so you don't even want to seek it. The people of Freedomville, who's technically supposedly freedom, they didn't even want to fight against the oppressor. They thought that we just bringing trouble. We've been good, sir. You know what I'm saying? Yes, sir, massa mentality. That if massa's sick, what Malcolm been saying, if massa's sick, you think you sick. We sick, sir. That's how they felt. We's good people. It's people being terrorized left and right. We first got introduced into Freedomville by a family saying that the Ku Klux Klan is coming in there tearing up their shit every damn night. And they leaving and going back to Africa. But then you got the old shuck and jive ass person out here saying they's good to us. We ain't never had those problems around here. You know what I'm saying? It just irks my fucking soul. I love that Mario Van Peebles always makes sure that history is told. Even though this is a fictional film, it is based on events that have taken place to actual black settlers and black cowboys. And I love the fact that he keeps it in there. He keeps it in there. He weaves it in with ease. One of the things that I didn't like and liked at the same time, it was a lot of big names in this. A lot of big names in this film. We had Isaac Hayes, Pam Grier, Aaron Neville, Vesta Williams, Nipsey Russell, just to name a few. But their parts were so small. They played a role in the end, in the major big fight. But for the most part, they was just like, they could have just been extras, for real. I've always thought that Sally Richardson looked like a young Pam Grier. And I was like, my brain, because I couldn't remember the whole movie from back in 30 years ago, my brain was like, oh my God, I get to see Sally Richardson and Pam Grier play, with one another, like act with one another. And they really didn't interact at all. Pam Grier's role was just smile to the camera and show her titties. Like, she picked up a gun, later on and did a couple pop piles, but nothing like what we see Pam Grier doing in her own movies. They didn't use these people to the best of their abilities, in my opinion. Let's see. The men never learned why Jessie was on his killing spree. They just blindly followed him. I didn't understand that either. Nobody ever questioned what was he doing or why we was doing what we was doing. Sally Richardson, Lana, she wasn't mad enough for me. There was a point in the movie that her father got taken by the Klan right in front of her boyfriend, who was the sheriff of the town. He did nothing. Did nothing but tell the people to go back home. Was nothing to see here. Another thing that I didn't understand about the movie is why bypass Florida? I know that they went to New Orleans because Weezy knew people around there, but that seemed to be the normal hub for them to take those bodies to, because the colonel went straight there. They left Cuba. They bypassed Florida. Probably safer for them to do so, but they bypassed Florida just to get to New Orleans. I didn't understand that part. And I didn't understand how they got off the boats. They had to pay a lot of gold to be able to get into the coffins, and only Weezy and the quartermaster knew that they were actually in those coffins. How did they get the coffins off the boat without them being able to detect that it was 5 live bodies inside of those? So that was another thing too. Plus Weezy didn't ride in the coffin, so that was another thing. If I had to learn any type of moral things from this film, is that all skin folk ain't kinfolk. Blair Underwood. Money has a way of making people lose their sense of humanity, all for the idea of having power. And white folks just don't want to succeed. They don't want us to succeed for any reason. And the education is freedom. Those were some of the lessons that I can learn from this movie. I think that if you like movies with historical context in it, if you like to see movies where all the black people don't die, that they come out on top in some form or fashion, this is a good movie to watch. It's a good movie to watch. Like I said, it's on Tubi. It's also on Amazon Prime. I recommend it to anybody. It's rated, at the time in 1993, it was rated MA for mature. But like I said, I got to watch this in theaters back in 1993. And I was looking at Rotten Tomatoes when I was trying to select black westerns to watch. And it got 33%. It got like 46% on IMDb. I was like, and I'm looking at the people who wrote these, the context, that wrote the reviews. And I was like, y'all just don't want us to survive. Y'all just don't want us to win. Y'all just don't want us to win. One of the things that Mario Peebles purposely did for this movie is he wanted to showcase the black cowboys and the black settlers that existed back in that day. Because Hollywood doesn't. They normally don't. They make you believe that all cowboys were white for the most part. Okay. We also learned at the end of this movie, on the end credits, that at this particular time there was over 8,000 black cowboys and settlers. And most of them moved west because they had nowhere else to go once they was emancipated, right? So they moved west and headed west, and they created their own towns. They had no other choice, no other option. You know, so there was many settlements from New Orleans to Los Angeles that had been created by black people. The movie said that majority of those settlements were all destroyed by government, by races, or by highways being thrown into the mix. At the time of this movie in 1983, It says that black people were like 12% of the population of the United States, and we owned less than 0.5% of land. Land is power. Power is money. Land is money, and money is power. In these days and times. So, but yeah, I think that anybody and everybody should go and watch Posse if you've never seen it before. That way you can get the full gist of everything that happened. You get to see all those gunfights were fucking awesome. Those gunfights were fucking awesome. If I had to look back at the years that this was created in, I would not have realized it was made back in 1993. Okay, the Technicolor and stuff is not exactly the same. Of course, the CGI and everything is not exactly the same. But back then, majority of it was like real stunts. You know what I'm saying? So there was some real stunt people. It wasn't CGI created. Okay. But yeah, it's that good, y'all. I advise y'all all to watch it. My next one is Gang of Roses on Tuesday at 7:30 p.m. over on Discord in the TV Lifer Lounge. There is no new link for me to give you. You can go search it on Discord yourself and find me, or you just have to wait until next month when we do all the Christmas movies. If you've made it to the end of this video, why you ain't subscribed? Makes no sense. Thank you for being here. Thank you for watching. Like, comment, share, subscribe. Peace.